Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Christina, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking with you guys all about notebooking. Now bear with me because this video sounds like it's going to be pretty echoey because I am in an almost empty room. Some of you may remember we are remodeling the upstairs of our home, so I am in one of those rooms that is almost ready for new furniture and everything to come into, but it is the only good quiet place in the house right now. I have some plumbing getting replaced and fixed downstairs, and I have the kids down there and all of the things. So this was the only place and the only time to film this video for you guys. I feel like I said this last week too, that I had to film with like all the kids in the house, and that was the only time to get that video up for you. But this is the season of life we are in right now. And so I asked over on stories on Instagram about a week and a half ago, and then mentioned in last week's video or one of last week's videos to let me know if you were interested in hearing more about notebooking. Many of you guys showed interest in that. So I wanted to share with you, even though we are very early on in our notebooking journey or our notebooking practice or whatever you want to call it, but I want to talk to you about what it is, how we've used it so far, and how we hope to use it in the future. So grab yourself a cup of coffee. I have mine. So I have just like a cheap $25 coffee maker from Target, but I got one of those frothers a few months ago on Amazon, and I mean, they make me feel like I have a fancy cup of cappuccino or something. And I'll just randomly shout them out. This is not affiliated, this is not sponsored, but a sweet homeschool family from Maine sent me their coffee from Fox and Hound Coffee Co. to try, and it is incredible. It is a small batch roastery. This was roasted like a week ago. It is so good. It's organic, so definitely try them out. I will link them down below for you guys. Okay. Love you.
Love you.
My son had to get a screwdriver for the plumbing situation, you guys. Things are in shambles over here. Like, we have a remodel going on, and I'm super thankful it's coming out beautiful. But there have been so many things with the project and then in our lives that have gotten in the way, and it is taking forever. Meanwhile, we have plumbing issues going on. Our dryer is about to go. There's a lot going on over here. But I was actually excited to sit and chat with you about notebooking, so let's do this. This coffee is so good. Okay, so notebooking is something that I've been intrigued by for quite a while now. I've seen it pop up a couple of times over the last year or so, and I'm sure it's been in practice for far longer than that. But what really got me inspired to try it out was a speaker that I listened to at the homeschool conference that I am a part of, the For the Love of Homeschooling virtual homeschool conference. So if after this video you want to know more about notebooking, I'm sure that you can find out tons of information out there. But I also just want to take this opportunity to remind you that the virtual homeschool conference is still available, and it will always be linked in the description box below and in my bio over on Instagram. I've only watched a handful of the speakers so far because just time, but it has been so helpful to me in so many different ways, both in practical, like homeschooling practices, like notebooking, and then like deep spiritual purposes and values of homeschooling that have really resonated with me. We're about 5 minutes in and I still haven't talked about notebooking. So notebooking is essentially where you are showing your learning in a notebook, which sounds like duh, notebooking. But the way that we are using it is I'm trying to use it as a way to really encourage and grow in child-led learning. This is something that I've been trying to implement more and more. While I know that we'll never be 100% child-led, because I'm not sure that I would ever just ditch all curriculum, although I fully respect that choice, I would like it to be more a part of the way that we learn and the way that we homeschool. So we are starting off using it in a very simple way, and I actually want to show you some of the samples from two of my children just to give you an idea of like how far we've gotten. And I hope to develop this more and more over the years and see where it goes. Right now, it's mostly independent that they're doing it. It really is for them to explore topics that they're interested in. So they will use magazines and books and just look through them and read through them and find something that they're really interested in and then capture some of that learning in a notebook. So I'm encouraging them to use pictures and captions in order to do this. So for right now, we've started off just small, so it wasn't overwhelming to them, with using National Geographic for my older son who's 14. The most recent ones that he's been pulling from are just some semi-recent Nat Geos, just as a way for him to obviously read and learn on his own things that interest him and then show his learning. And so I'll show you some of the things that he's done so far for that. And for my 6-year-old, she's doing the same thing with Nat Geo Kids and Ranger Rick Jr. And then we get like a Birds and Blooms magazine. So she can use any of those magazines that she has access to in order to do her notebooking. Just to show you the Nat Geo Kids that she's been pulling from. And then this also goes for books. And so I shared this in my spring book haul, and we love this book. And this is really nice, especially for my 6-year-old, because as I shared in that video, there is a wide range of topics, but it is beautiful, but there isn't a ton of information. So it's almost like an overview on many things in nature and many nature topics. And then you can always research further or dig deeper if you find something you're interested in. But something like this page would be a perfect page for my 6-year-old to include in her notebooking. And she actually chose to do that with the bee anatomy page. And then another book that they've been doing this with recently is the Toad or Frog, Swamp or Bog. And this is another one that I shared about in my spring book haul, where it shows the kind of juxtaposition of often confused creatures and parts of nature. So I wanted to show you a couple of their work samples to give you an idea of what this looks like so far, and then share with you where we hope to go with it and kind of what my goals are for notebooking moving forward. So I'll start with my 6-year-old. She literally is using a regular notebook. Now, my older son chose to use his sketchbook, which I actually feel like is a better choice because he could watercolor. He could use like watercolor markers or different things like that in order to add color in the future, whereas you can't do as much with the notebook. But for my daughter, who is not as advanced in writing, obviously, it does help her a little bit to have the lines. So I'll show you a couple little things. This actually was something that she was prompted to do on a separate sheet of paper in her ready to read ice and snow unit from Gather Round Homeschool. So I said, why don't you just go ahead and do it right in your notebook? And it was just following the steps to draw a penguin. This was something she pulled from a Nat Geo about how each spot on a cheetah is about the size of your handprint, and she drew the cheetah. So she draws the picture and she does at least one fact. Then she has here a hawk, and eagles are the largest hawks. Then she has some facts about butterflies. Then she did the differences between rabbits and hares. So she talked about how baby rabbits are born with no fur and closed eyes, and newborn hares are fully furred and their eyes are open. So this is something she grabbed from that Nature's Confusables book. This one was really cool because I told her she could also pick a line from a book or a poem that she really liked. So she pulled this from Over and Under the Pond. Over the pond we slide, splashing through lily pads, sweeping through reeds. So I really like how this notebooking idea connecting with copy work, which is really also another practice that I wanted to do more and more with them. Kind of the idea that noticing and copying great writing will help build you as a writer and grow you as a writer. So I thought that that was pretty cool. And then she drew the picture. She didn't add color to it, but something that I've done before is if she did a really beautiful, colorful drawing, I'll say, hey, why don't you add a fact or something? Show me where you found this. And then I might point out, like, maybe choose one of these facts, which one interests you most. So I try to encourage her in that way. And this one I would maybe say, hey, why don't you add some color to this one? Here's the anatomy of the bee one. And so she took this right out of the Nature Anatomy book, and she drew the anatomy of the bee and then labeled it. And that gives you probably a good idea of where she's at with hers. And then I'll show you a couple from my 14-year-old. Okay, so I told him I'm gonna need him to do captions because I said, one thing that I did say to him is like, I wanna be able to look at this and know what it is, even if you know what it is, I wanna know what it is. So this is a picture of something. It looks like maybe some kind of mountains. I'm not really sure. And then here's an example. This is an Aztec stone sculpture, and they have the most diverse ecosystem in the world. And so there's that. I'll find like maybe one or two more from his. This one he wrote a little bit more. So he did a spear and a shield, and this was an article about gladiators from Nat Geo. So he needs to work on adding color. I forget what this was, he did tell me, but That was something else he learned about. And then he also did the hare versus rabbit. And so he did some facts and some sketches. And so we are, like I said, really in the beginning of learning about notebooking, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure on them. I really want it to be a practice that they learn to love it, enjoy, and look forward to, and realize that they can learn whatever interests them and use this as a way to kind of capture that learning. So there's a place where we can have these filled up notebooks and just kind of look back and remember, like, wow, look at all this rich learning that did take place. And it also gives them the opportunity to demonstrate their learning in a way that's natural for them as a learner. And so I'll encourage them to do things a certain way, but eventually I want them to kind of develop this practice in a way that suits them. So I hope that makes sense. And so where I hope to go with this in the future is to continue to develop it in ways that maybe I haven't even thought of yet, but a specific goal that I have for doing this, or two specific goals, is one, to develop the way we're already doing it even more, and then for us to pull together a unit completely from scratch with no curriculum on a topic that they chose. So either one that they agree upon together, or maybe they'll each choose a unit and we will select books and resources and maybe even documentaries about this topic and do a unit study, not that I've planned on my own and not that is pre-planned through curriculum, but one that we plan together and we research and use notebooking as the way to demonstrate that learning. So if we decide to learn about a particular country, they would go ahead and do the mapping in there, like they would do some geography, they would do something about culture and history and all of the things, maybe even recipes right in the notebook. And so this was something that came up in that homeschool conference, and I feel so bad that I can't remember which speaker it was. I'll have to go back and look, and then I'll try to put it on the screen, or I'll put it down below. I cannot remember which speaker it was that talked about this. I think she said her family did Asia, when she had her different aged kids doing different amounts and levels of complexity in terms of what they did in their notebooks, but they all did this unit study together, and how it was a great way to really do family style learning and everybody still be at their appropriate level. And so Gather on Homeschool is usually the way that I do that, and I love it, and I definitely plan to continue doing that in the future. But I also love this idea of being a little bit even more outside of the box, doing it in a sketchbook, doing it notebooking style, and pulling together unit studies just completely on our own, and maybe alternating back and forth between that and maybe a gather round unit study. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and this is something that I'll continue to share. So let me know if you do notebooking, if you've heard of it, all of the things down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, introduce yourself down in the comments below. I truly, truly love to get to know you guys. I've had so many new moms reach out to me recently, letting me know that they found me, and DMing me over on Instagram and connecting with you guys really just makes me so happy. For that reminder that I'm not just talking to my phone, I'm actually talking to real moms out there, and we're linking arms together in this motherhood and homeschooling journey. So if you are not already subscribed, I would love if you'd stick around. I share all different kinds of content here on my channel. If you have any requests for videos, you can always DM me over on Instagram. You can even drop them down in the comments below. I love to know what you guys are hoping to see, if you have questions and all of those things. So I hope to see you soon in one of my next videos. And until next time, stay rooted.